Yeah. Okay. So good morning, everyone. My name is Iulia and I'm from the University of Kent. I'm going to talk about what I do a bit and what my roles are in the university, and then I will answer your questions. So who am I first? I just finished my PhD in electronic engineering, so I specialize in humanoid robots. My research was based on implementing grasping and walking algorithms for humanoid robots. I have a master's in information security and biometrics, in which I was looking at iris recognition and way to improve the recognition of people using their irises. And I have a bachelor in computer science, in which I also studied iris recognition. I was a teaching assistant at the University of Kent, so I was teaching different programming modules. And I'm currently a research associate in an interdisciplinary project with between engineering and psychology, and we are looking at implementing human traits into machines so that machines can recognize people more human-like. So what I do, I work with the Now robot, which is the one that you see in the pictures. It's a very short robot. It has about 60 centimeters tall, and I use it for my PhD, and I use it currently to teach in schools or to do different talks, to do open days at university. Some of the pictures that you see here are from our 50th anniversary 2 years ago, and it was the main attraction at the event that year. I was part of my PhD was belonged to an European project, so it was called the Koalas, and we were using the humanoid robot as an assistant to a disabled person. So we had a wheelchair, which was an semi-automatic wheelchair, and we had a robot that was able to connect to the wheelchair. Then, for example, a scenario was that the patient was in the bedroom and the wheelchair was in the living room. So the patient can say, now, can you please bring me my wheelchair? And the robot will just connect the wheelchair and drive it next to the bed. Another scenario was that the robot would just sit in the corner of a room and scan the room constantly. Then if it detects that someone has fallen, it can first ask for confirmation if someone has actually fallen. If it doesn't receive a reply, but it detects that someone has fallen, it will just get up, go check for a face where it detected that someone has fallen. And if a face is detected, it will call the ambulance. I also do quite a bit of outreach events. So I go into schools and I teach either programming using the robots or programming using Arduino, Raspberry Pi, and so on. So all of these are just, some of them are educational kits that you can get them from different shops, and you can just learn how to program and use it as skills for university. So if you have any questions, I would be more than happy to answer them. How do you make the robots? So the robots, I don't make them myself. So my aim was just to develop the control part of the robot. So the way they move their arms, the way they move their legs, so that it's more human-like. So usually when you build a robot, it depends how complicated you want it to be, how human-like you want it to be, how machine-like you want it to be, if you want it to have wheels, legs, and so on. So there are different things that come into place. Okay. What is an IEEE volunteer? So IEEE it stands for the Institute of Electronic and Electrical Engineering. It's a global organization. It's similar to what in the UK is the IET, Institute of Engineering Technology. So IEEE covers different areas of engineering, including medicine, and sometimes it covers business as well. To be a volunteer for the IEEE means that you get to organize different conferences for the IEEE. You get to promote the name. You get to go to different events as a volunteer and so on. Can you buy these robots? If so, where? You can buy the robots. So the company just released version 6 this summer. The company is called SoftBank Robotics. However, the robots do cost £7,000 at the moment, so they are not very affordable. And I'm not entirely sure if they have opened it yet for people to purchase it, because they were only selling it to institutions for research.
Iulia, can I just interrupt? Can you put your screen up to full screen so people can actually see you?
Yes.
The camera. Sorry.
I'm not entirely sure how to do that.
I think you just go to the top and then end share screen, and you should go into field. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there we go.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
No problem. How do you program the robots? So there are different ways to program the robots. You can use, for example, C++, which is a programming language. You can use Python, which is another programming language. So it all varies depending on what you are more comfortable with. For example, for my research, I used C++ and Python. So I was using both of them to integrate my programs. Do you think people want robots in their lives? In a way, robots can be there to assist us. And if you think about it, we already kind of have robots in our lives. You can consider smartphones as being robots because you have Apple that has Siri, you have Windows Phone that has Cortana, you have Samsung that has Bixby, you have Google phones that have Google Assistant. So you can talk to them and say, can you set my alarm for tomorrow morning? Can you tell me what the weather is like today? Can you tell me if I have any appointments? So technically, we do have robots in our lives, and they just make lives easier. What materials do you use to make a robot? So again, it depends on what type of robot you want to use. You will need different materials to build all the boards, which are going to be the brain of the robot, and let's say the heart of the robot controls all the hands and the legs. You will also need material to cover the robot. For example, let's say either wood or plastic or different kind of materials. You also need LEDs if you want to have any type of interaction with the robot. For example, my robot has LEDs in the eyes so that you can make it blink or change colors so that the person interacting with the robot knows that the robot is actually listening and so on. What inspired you to make the robots? When I was doing my master's, I went to see my PhD supervisor, which was then my master's supervisor, and the robot was sitting in his office. So I just fell in love with the robot directly, and I decided to work with the now robot for my PhD. Someone says that they are having problem with hearing.
Okay. Which school is that, Iulia?
Iulia Primary.
Paul. Okay. I think they're having difficulty before as well. Sorry, Paul. I'm not quite sure what we can do. Sorry, do you want to carry on, Iulia, just in case? But we can't really do.
How long do you work each day? Each day is quite different. So my schedule is not 9 to 5 or every day. So I might be working, let's say, 4 days, 4 hours a day, or I might be working 12 hours a day. Sometimes I might be working, like when I started my PhD, I had to work for four days straight. So each day is different depending on what I have to do. What does the robot do? So the robot was programmed to do different things. For example, being an assistant to a disabled person, like I was saying earlier, for example, driving around the wheelchair, it can grasp an object in a very natural and accurate way, like the way a human does, which was the main contribution of the project. And it can also, well, for when we have visitors, it can do different dancing things and more entertaining things. Was technology always your passion? Yes. Although when I was young, I wanted to become a medical doctor. I always was very keen to know how things work. So I would like pull apart different technical things and then try to put them back together. How does the robot work? So the robot has two different boards. One is located in the head, which is sort of the brain of the robot, and it tells the robot what to do. It processes informations when you are communicating with it, and so on. And it has another one in the chest, which controls the arms and all the motors of the robot. So depending on what you ask the robot to do, it uses a certain board so that it doesn't overheat. How old were you when you started engineering? I started programming when I was 15 years old, and then I went from just doing computer science into doing engineering. So when I started engineering, I was 22. How long did it take you to make the robot? I didn't make the robot myself. I think the company that made it, it took them about like 5 years until they got the first prototype out. For me, I can speak about the programming part. For example, let's say the grasping algorithm. It took me about a year and a half to make it perfect and actually work and do what I wanted it to do. How long have you been working here for? I think this is my 6th year. So yeah, quite like 6 years. How do you program the robot to call the ambulance? So the robot has, it's exactly like a PC. So it can connect to the internet. So by connecting to the internet, it can connect to a certain server that then can just send an SOS message to the NHS or an ambulance, and that's the way it communicates with the ambulance. How long does it take the manufacturer to make the robot? It took them about roughly 5 years to get the first prototype out. How did you think of building the robot? Do you work on your own? I haven't built the robot myself, so we bought it from the company directly. So I was just working on the control implementation. I have worked on my own, but I also work in teams. So, for example, for the project, the healthcare project that I was talking about, in which the robot was an assistant for a disabled person, we were a team of 40 people from different universities from both UK and France. And the current project that I'm on now, there's only 4 of us in the project, 2 leads and 2 research associates. What processor do you use for the robot? My robots are quite old. They are about, I think, 7 years old or 8 years old. So they are using very old processors. They are very, very bad. But the newest one have high-speed processors, i5, I think. How long did it take to build the robot? It took the company about 5 years to get the first prototype out. What can the robot do? The robot can communicate with the wheelchair, can detect if a person has fallen, call for help. It can grasp an object without any error very accurately. And it can also do entertaining things like dancing for visitors when we have them here. So the robots, so what the robots are used for? We use the robots in healthcare, so as an assistant for a disabled person. We use the robots in education, so as an assistant in the classroom when the children can learn how to program. There are other people using the robots for other causes and projects. For example, there's a competition called RoboCup in which the robots play football. They are being used for interacting with people with dementia. They are being used in psychology as well for interacting with patients and so on. So it varies. They have quite a different modalities of being used. Do you think robots are the future of the world? In a way, yes, because we are used with technology evolving all the time. So we are kind of becoming more open to having robots. Obviously, it's going to be a bit weird for us to see a robot that actually looks like human and not behave like human. But having this separation between robots and humans at the moment kind of works for us, and it has been proven to be very successful as well. How many robots have you made? I haven't made that many robots. The robots that I made were like very small for projects in schools, so like small cars that could follow lines and so on. Do you think robots are the future? I think I just answered that earlier. Can the robots be used? The robots that I have are currently being used just for research. So at the moment, most of the nanorobots, although there are about 4,000 nanorobots in the world, they are mostly used for research purposes. If robots can come in different shapes and sizes, yes. So you can have humanoid robots, you can have robotic cars, you can have robots that, for example, you have the Aibo dog, which is a Sony robot that looks like a dog. You can have robots that have 6 legs. You can have robots that have wheels. So they come in different shapes and different sizes as well. You can have robots that are very small and fit in one hand, or you can have robots that are actually human size. What is your favorite robot you have made? My favorite robot is an robot, but I haven't made it myself. It's just that I worked with it for so long. It's a sort of connection between me and the robot. What do you think robots could be used in the future? Robots can be used for many things. One would be an assistant, for just a personal assistant. So you can have a robot, for example, helping someone out. They can be used for earthquakes, for example. If a building collapsed during an earthquake, instead of sending a person to investigate if there are any survivors, you can send a robot. That way you don't, if the robot gets damaged and ruined, you haven't lost a life, you just lost a robot which is replaceable. So there are quite a few applications, including for sending robots into space. Does a robot use an Intel processor? No, it doesn't use an Intel processor. What A levels would I need to study robotics? For depending what type of robotics you want to do. For example, for what I did, because I was doing control, I had to do a lot of mathematics and a lot of programming. So obviously maths and programming are very important, and physics as well. What inspired you to be an engineer? I'm not entirely sure. I was just very fascinated about computers and technology and robots and how things work. So that that's mainly why I became an engineer. What is the best part of your job? The best part of my job is that I can interact and meet so many people during these projects that I do all the time and give different talks like the primary engineer talks. How long have you been making robots? I haven't made proper robots, so all the robots that I made were very small projects. But I've been working with robots for about 6 years now. Is it fun to work with robots? Yes, it is. How long does it take to make the robot? It depends on what type of robot you want to build. For example, if you want a humanoid robot like the one that I was working with, it can take a few years. For example, um, there's Honda has a humanoid robot, and they spent 12 years working on the robot to improve it until they released the first version. So it depends on how expensive and how complicated the robot is. What you wanted to be when you were younger? I wanted to become a medical doctor, more exactly a cardiologist. And then I realized when I was about 8 years old that I am afraid of blood. So they don't really work together. So I had to switch to something else. And I chose, instead of fixing humans, fixing machines. What was your first reaction when you saw the robot? I was trying to be very professional, so I just saw it, and when my supervisor asked me if I want to do my PhD on the robot, I said yes straight away, and I didn't have to think about it. But I was very excited to see it in person and to have the opportunity to actually work with it because I knew how complicated the robot is. What age were you when you built your first robot? I was about 21. It was one of my my projects for my undergrad. How long can the robot last? Do you need to charge it? Yes, so the robot has a battery. The batteries that we have at the moment don't last for so long, so they can only last for about 60-90 minutes. And that is mainly because the robot is using the battery so that it can move its arms. If you have it static, sitting somewhere without using any of the motors, it will last for a lot longer. Could it be programmed to do homework? Well, it can, but you will still have to program it for it to know how to do your homework. So eventually you still do your own homework by programming the robot. Have you ever named a robot? Yes, so basically we have 3 now robots. And because our department is engineering and digital arts, short EDA, one robot is called Edison, one robot is called Donna, and one is called Alamet. What age did you start and how much do you get paid? I started doing programming when I was 15, and then I went into engineering when I was 22. And usually as an engineer, you get paid over 30K per year. What we need to work hard at in school so that we can become robotics engineers. I would say mathematics, physics, and programming. How much does it cost to make the robot? I'm not entirely sure because I haven't made this robot myself, but it depends again on how advanced you want the robot to be, what type of processors you want to put in the robot, and stuff like that. How expensive the materials that you want to buy are as well. Have you worked on any other robots? I only worked on very small robots, and I worked also a bit with the Pepper robot, which is also a humanoid robot, but instead of having legs, it has wheels. Is building a robot something you would like to do? Yes, I would like to do that in the future. Has the robot ever fallen over? Can it get back up on its own? Actually, yes. The robot can, if it falls over, it can get up on its own, and it's actually the only robot that can do that at the moment because of the way the company built the pelvis of the robot. What is your favorite thing about the robot? The first one would be the appearance of the robot, and the second one, the way the robot very smooth moves, so it's very human-like. Can the robots communicate with each other? Yes, you can. So the robots have infrared that can be used for them to communicate with each other. What got you into engineering? I was just always very into into finding out how things work and pulling everything apart and trying to put it back together. How do you feel when you finish a robot? I can't tell you how I feel after I finish a robot because I haven't built that many robots, big robots, but every time I finish a program for controlling the robot and it actually works and the experiments work fine, it's a very big relief. Would controlling the robot be hard? It is a bit, but if you know maths and you know how to use it so that you can control the robot and understand different basic physics concepts, you won't find it hard. What did your favorite robot do? Well, my favorite robot is an hour robot. So the best thing that it can do, I think, is the grasping algorithm that I implemented on the robot. Can the robot malfunction and is it waterproof? It's not waterproof, so it can't deal with water at all. And it can malfunction. Sometimes the motors get hot or the head can get hot, so it will just shut down on its own. How much does it cost to make a robot? It depends on how advanced you want the robot to be. It can cost from probably 20-30 pounds to a few millions. Do the robots have names? Yes, Edison, Donna, and Alamet, because our school is EDA, Engineering and Digital Arts. Can the robots carry things? Yes, they can, but they can't carry very heavy things because they're very short and very small. So the maximum amount they can carry is 1 kilogram. Can they do housework? They are quite small, so these robots cannot do housework, but you can have other robots that can. What happens if something goes wrong with the robot? Well, it depends on what goes wrong. If it's something with the robot itself, then you have to contact the company and they will try to fix it. If it's something with the code that I implemented, I have to find the bug and fix it. Could robots do everything, like get a cup of tea? They can't really get a cup of tea because of the shapes of their hands. So they won't really be able to hold the cup without spilling the tea. Can robots sing? They can in a way. They have speakers, so you can just program the robot to say stuff or even sing. Do you think robots could take over people's jobs? They will take over some jobs, like in factories and so on. But at the same time, when a robot takes over someone's job, it will also create another job. Could the robot be programmed to feed a paralyzed person? It will have to be a bigger robot. So the company that developed the robot that I was working with has also a robot called Romeo, which is developed specially for people, well, either disabled people or paralyzed people, so they can carry someone because it's a really big robot and so on. So it depends on the type of robot, how big the robot is. What does the robot get the power? Where does the robot get the power from? So you plug it in just like a normal phone. It has a battery inside, it charges, and then it lasts for 90 minutes. Do you think there could be there could ever be too many robots in the future? I don't think so. Not in the near future, because obviously robots are quite expensive at the same time. So it's quite difficult to spread them. Can they open doors? Bigger robots can. The robot that I was working with can't because it's too short, so it won't be able to reach the door handle. And we even tried it to see if it can reach a disable button, and it can't reach. It's a lot shorter than that. Does the robot have human emotions? The robots can't really have human emotions, so if they do show any type of emotion, it's because someone programmed their own emotions into the robot. What is the most important part of the robot? Well, the most important part would be the boards that allow the robot to think, let's say think. And then the next one would be the motors, so that it allows the robot to actually move. Can you program the robot to do math homework? Yes, you can, but you will have to program it yourself. What problems did you face during the testing phase with your robots? So, for example, when I was doing the walking algorithms, a problem that I would face all the time was that the robot would fall. So I had to go back into my code and see how I implemented the algorithm and how I was calculating the center of mass, and if the center of mass would always keep a straight trajectory and so on. With the grasping algorithm, a thing that one problem that I was finding was the fact that the robot would sometimes hit the table because it doesn't really have any sensors in the hand. So I had to calculate distance properly. How many years of study at university it takes to become a robotics engineer? You can become a robotics engineer after just doing the bachelor, but it's better to do a master's as well to specialize yourself in a particular area of engineering, such as robotics, for example. Can you create a robot to do homework? You will have to program it. The robots are not actually smart, so they can do complicated math problems, but they won't be able to do stuff like literature, geography, history, and so on. Have the robots ever lost control? Not really. The only thing that I had was the problems with the code. How long would it take to make an adult life-size robot? There are robots that are almost as tall as adults. So the tallest robot I think is 150. So yeah, they already exist. Can the robot project a movie? You will have to install additional sensors on it, so you will have to install a projector on the robot. Could they play football with you? There is a competition called the Robo Cup in which robots play football against other robots. So you have two teams and they play football. And the aim of the competition is that by 2050, they will have a full size team of robots playing against human team. Programming a robot is similar to writing code for a video game. Yes, it's quite similar, just that in programming a robot, you use a lot more physics and math. Could you use them to do household jobs? It depends on the robot. For example, the robot that I was working with is not ideal for that, but there are robots that were designed especially for household jobs. Can they learn how to say your name? What was your inspiration? They can learn how to say your name, and I actually taught them to recognize my face and then say my name or follow when they see me and so on. My inspiration was just the fact that I always enjoyed to see how things work and find out stuff for myself and put things together and so on. What age were you when you fell in love with robotics? 21 or something like that. Can you program them to do all things human can do? You can't program them to do everything we can. So you can program them to do a particular task or a set of tasks, but it's very difficult to create a robot that can do everything we can, not with the current technology that we have at the moment. Can the robot speak many languages? Yes, the robot that I have can speak up to 20 languages. How many wires does the robot have? they do have a lot of wires because you need to connect all the motors to the board and all the micro. Depending on you have loads of wires. Can they help with help with everyday routines? They can help with some routines, not everything, but with easy tasks, yes. Do you have a favorite part of making a robot? Just the fact that I know that at the end I will have a final product that I will be happy with. Do the robots use Wi-Fi? Yes, they use Wi-Fi. How tall are the robots? About 60 centimeters tall. How many robots have you made? Can the robot understand different languages? So I have made only small robots. So the big robots and complicated robots that I was working with were already implemented by someone else. So the robots I've made were very small projects for university, about 2 or 3 of them. And robots can understand different languages. The robots that I have can speak up to 20 languages and understand at the same time. Are you currently working on anything else apart from the robot? I'm working on implementing, bringing human-like traits into machines so that machines can recognize someone's face and someone's voice more in a more human-like way. Can the robots talk? Yes, they have speakers which allows them to talk. Can the robots see in the dark? They can't see in the dark unless you install special cameras on them. Can the robot jump and do karate? It cannot jump because of the way the foot is designed. It's a flat foot, so it doesn't have any toes. And when we jump, we use our toes to push ourselves up, so it doesn't have that possibility. It cannot do karate, but my robot can do tai chi. Can robots be used in aviation? Yes, they could be used for that. What is the most unusual thing a robot can do? People have worked on different robots that can do unusual things, so it now depends on what exactly you classify as being unusual. There are robots that were implemented by Boston Dynamics in the US that can walk on uneven surfaces, like for example mountains. I've seen that they have 6 or 7 or 8 legs. They are quite scary though. Do the robots have emotions? If a robot would have emotions, it will be the emotions that the developer implemented on the robot. They don't have their own emotions, so they do not develop the same way humans do. Can they listen to conversations to gather information? Yes, they can, and they can extract information from there. You can also, for example, connect them to the internet, and you can ask them, can you tell me about the Queen of England, and it will just access Wikipedia and extract the information from there and just tell you some information. How many people are involved in making the robots? It depends again on how complicated the robot would be. So if it's a very complicated robot, you will need design engineers, you need mechanical engineers, you need control engineers, software engineers, vision engineer, and so on. If the robot overheats, can it catch fire? No. So when the robot detects that he's overheated, for example, if the motors are very hot, it will just sit down and unstiff its motors and just wait until the motors come back to normal temperatures. If the head overheats, the robot will say, my head is overheated, and will just shut down. It will obviously first sit down so that it's in a safe position and then shut down. Can they protect your home? They can't really protect your home. Are they waterproof? No. Can you interact with them? Yes, you can interact with them and have a basic conversation with the robot. Can the robots paint a picture? There has been research on that, but the result is not that great. Do robots have a certain shelf life age they can work to? Yes, like for example, mobile phones. You can have them for about 2 years, and then after that they become very slow. It's the same with robots. After about 2, 3, 4 years, they are too old and will obviously not perform the best. Could they take over the world in the future? I don't think that's going to happen anywhere in the near future, not in probably next 500 years. Could robots that drive a car? They could be programmed for that, but researchers prefer to work on robotic cars. So you have uh, cars that drive by themselves without needing a driver. Do the robots have birthdays? Not really, no. Can you have conversations with the robots? Yes, you can. Could the robots fix items? They can only fix items that are quite easy to fix. So if it's something very small in size, it will be difficult for them to do it. So it has to be something probably bigger. Can anyone buy a robot? It depends what type of robot you want to buy. There are robots that are very cheap, like 20 pounds, 30 pounds, or there are robots that go up to 50 or 100,000 pounds. So it depends what type of robots you want. Could the robots do your hair for you? I don't think they're that skilled. How much is the robot worth? This robot I was working with are about 7,000 pounds at the moment. Can you design the robot to extend its arms? I don't think anyone did that, but I don't see why not. How long do they take to charge? Can they go outside? They take about 1 or 2 hours to charge, and they can go outside if it's not raining. Can they walk upstairs? The robots that I have cannot do that because the stairs are too high. So there is research about the robot going upstairs, but they had to design special stairs for them. Is it possible for them to be hacked by someone else? Well, that's one of the risks, obviously, because like someone can hack your PC, someone can hack your robot as well. Could the robots last in space? There is a robot that was designed for going into space. I don't think it has been sent to space yet. That is a NASA robot. I can't remember what the name is. And it's a humanoid robot, which was actually designed to go to space. Do robots have a pulse or anything similar? What is its heart? So they don't have any pulse. They don't have an actual heart either. So my robots have a board in the chest, which controls the motors, but that's it. What was the last thing you programmed? The last thing I programmed was a few days ago to use neural networks to recognize someone's face. What country was the first one made in? I'm not entirely sure. Well, actually, the first robot, which was a mechanical robot, was created by a watchmaker in Switzerland in 1700 or something like that. And they are currently being displayed in a museum in Switzerland. Can they understand questions? Yes, they can. Have you ever heard of Neo the robot? I haven't heard of it, no. Do they have laser eyes? No. So if you want laser eyes, you have to modify it yourself and add external sensors. Could the robot read? Yes, it can use optical character recognition to recognize the letters and then put them back together. Can you program the robots to have emotions? You can, but their emotions are not going to be the same way we feel. So they will feel whatever the developer felt when they programmed them. Where do you program your robots? I just program them in the lab. Do they make noise when they move? They do make a slight noise because of the motors, but it's not loud. Do they have different abilities? Are they able to survive in bad weathers? Each robot does have different abilities. Each different type of robot has different abilities. My robots cannot survive in bad weather, so if you send them, for example, in rain, they won't be able to last. But there are robots that are being developed for that kind of floods, to find the survivors, for earthquakes, to find survivors after an earthquake, and so on. So they can be developed to do that. Can the robots do sign language? I don't think they can, because usually robots have the old fingers connected to each other, so they can only close and open the arm. Can you connect with people like a phone can? You could, if you program it. How fast can they move? The Now robot doesn't move that fast, so it moves as fast as a 2-year-old. Can they climb? They can't, not the Now robots, but there are other robots that can do that. Can robots communicate with each other? Yes, they have infrared sensors that can allow them to do that. Can they go up the stairs? Only if the stairs are designed specially for them, otherwise they are too high. Can the robot get dirty? How would you clean it if it does? So it can get dirty from different, like even dust, or people touching it, or if you spill something on it. So you just clean it with a wet wipe. Can the robot charge and work at the same time? Yes, you can use it while it's being charged. How long a robot would last? So the battery from my robot lasts about 60 to 90 minutes. Can robots interact with pets? Yes, they can. I don't really know how pets would react to robots, though. Can they build things? Yes, robots are currently being used in factories, so they build cars, for example. So you can use them for building things. Can robots help with war? Yes, they can. So you can have a robot disarming a bomb and so on. Can someone spy on you with that robot? If they hack it, yes, it's the same way as them spying on you through your computer. Can the robot tell the exact time? Yes, it can. Can a robot be solar powered? Yes, it can. Could robots help other people with daily life? Only with very easy tasks. They can't do very complicated things. How many wires does the robot have? It depends on how complicated the robot is. Have you made different types of robots? Only very, very small ones that were very small school projects. Could robots be used as guide dogs for the blind? I haven't thought of that. I haven't checked to see if there's any research about it, but I think it could be done. Do the robots understand us? Yes, they can. They can understand basic commands. If they get lost, can it find its way back? It can if it has a GPS on it. If the robot breaks, how much does it cost to repair it? It depends what breaks. For example, one of my robots, one of the legs is bad, so it can't really walk anymore. So for us to repair the leg, it would be cheaper to just buy a new robot. So it depends. Can they go on fire? Well, yeah, they can. If they get too much electricity, they can go on fire.
So anyone with the questions for Iulia?
I don't know whether you'll need it.
Some quite interesting questions there, Iulia.
What happens if the system fails on a robot? You just have to reset it, and that's it. And if it's your system, if it's your code, you have to find the bug in the code. Can they sense your emotions? You can program it to detect expressions, and from expressions to detect your emotion or to assume your emotion, but that's kind of it. What company do you work for? I work for the University of Kent. Can they respond to questions? Yes, they can, to basic questions that they are familiar with. Can they swim? Not the robots that I have. So there are probably other robots that are designed especially for water out there. Do they have night vision? Not my robots, but you can find robots that were designed to be used in the dark, so they will probably have night vision. Could the robots help in hospital? Yes, you can. We even have Da Vinci robot, which is a surgical robot that helps the doctor perform operations on people. Can they play games? Yes, you can teach them to play game. Do you know of any robots that they can find things underground, maybe from the past? I don't know of any robots that do that, but I do know that people are developing different robots to dig in, not underground, but to find people under a collapsed building, for example. Do you see a future where each household will have one of these robots or similar to it, or similar in it? Yes, I think we will eventually have this kind of robots in houses. Could they also sense a burglar? Yes, you can, for example, detect it on security mode. It won't be able to protect the house, but if it detects that someone has entered the house and no one was supposed to enter the house, they can just call the police. Do you think robots could help police in the future? Yes, they should be able to. How strong and durable are they? It depends. For example, my robot, if it falls, it won't break because it's very short. But if you have a robot that is a lot higher, like a human size height, it might break if it falls. So it depends. Can robots feel or smell? No, they can't. Can the robot bring your medications to you? Yes, that was actually one of the scenarios that we had for the class project with the wheelchair. How far can a robot see? It depends on what camera it has on it. So my robot can see up to 2 meters. After that, it will be a bit difficult for it to recognize. In the future, could a robot look exactly like a human and act like one? They are working on that. So there's a robot called Sophia, which has a human face and it looks like proper human. Could the robot fall in love? Not really, because you will have to program your own feelings on it. So because we don't understand emotions, we can't make it fall in love. Can you program a robot to have memories? They kind of do have memories because they store everything, but it's not the same way we have memories. Where do you go to let other people test the robot? It depends on what type of testing we have to do. If it's, for example, for a healthcare project, we usually go in the hospital. If it's an educational project, we go in a school and so on. Could the robots go to school to learn? You could do that, but you will have to implement some sort of neural network on it so that it can actually learn. Can it put itself to charge if it has low battery and take it off when it's full? There is a company in the US that developed a sort of a chair for the now robot so that when the battery is low, the robot can just go and sit down and charge itself. Could the robots play music or play an instrument? I'm not entirely sure if they can play an instrument very well. Again, because of the hands, they can only close and open their hands. What would happen if it overheats? So if the head overheats, the robot will just shut down. It will first sit down so that it's in a safe position and then shut down. If the motors overheat, it will just sit down and unstiff the motors and wait until they come down to a reasonable temperature.
Those that have said that they may be doing something, I've put the information in.
Okay, is that it? We're almost at 12 o'clock. It's 11:57 according to my computer screen.
Yeah.
So thank you, everybody, and thank you so much, Iulia. That was, again, another wonderful hour spent with you. So thank you, everybody, for participating this morning. If any of you have any feedback for either Iulia or for us, Everyone says thank you, and we thank you too. So I'm going to close the meeting down now, and we'll speak to you all soon. And thanks, Julia. I'll speak to you too soon as well.
Yeah.
Cheers, Sam.
See you. Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.